So we're talking about spiritual formation. Now, all people are in spiritual formation. Just as we all have physical bodies, we all have spirits. And just as our physical bodies are influenced by the things that we do and do not do, so our spirits are as well. And like we know, round can be a shape. So the question is not so much who is being formed, but who is being intentional about their spiritual formation. Dallas Willard proposes that Christian formation should be about Christ likeness. It's about keeping the commands of Jesus. The very term Christian designates a likeness and identity wrapped up in Jesus. This is not to dictate how everyone must act and dress, a legislative externalism, as Richard Foster writes, but of an intentional desire to be more like Jesus. Not so much about wearing his robes and walking in Galilee, but about keeping his commands. The difficulty with spiritual formation is you cannot just train your spirit, but according to Dallas Willard, we must use indirect means such as solitude and silence and prayer and worship, and these very intricate and yet intentional actions of piety and righteousness towards God. These disciplines are not set in stone, but they're guidelines and exercise types for our spirit if we are going to be intentional in our formation. If I go to the gym but don't do the appropriate exercises, or I don't work out at all, then I'll never reach my goal. My muscles will never grow in strength, and I will just become that round shape. And so our spirit life is much like that. If we don't intentionally discipline our spirit in aspects that will influence the goals we're trying to reach, then we'll never attain great spiritual formation, and our relationship with God will suffer. George Fox Evangelical Seminary explains spiritual formation as orthodoxy, that is having right thinking, orthopraxy, the right action and piety, and orthopathy, right feeling. Yet I feel like they totally neglect and miss the most important aspect of spiritual formation. You see, we do not form ourselves simply through the disciplines. No, the Holy Spirit uses our discipline to will and to act in our lives His purposes in making us more like Christ. You see, true Christian spiritual formation is a dedicated routine for all believers to present sacred moments for the Holy Spirit to change us, to make us more like Christ, so that we are following in the commands of God, living out a full expression of love for God and love for each other.